The people who have not heard about this story, we're going to talk about these three women on my screen right here. Initially, there was an Amber Alert that was put out for some missing people, including those two little girls that you just saw on the screen. Now, sometimes this type of thing turns up the individuals that they're looking for. In this case, we have to report some tragic news and that they were found, but they were found deceased. So here's the story. Out of Milwaukee, the man accused of killing his two daughters and their mother in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, has been officially charged with their murders. The individual that you see on the screen right there, his name is a little bit hard to pronounce. Arzel Ivery, which is spelled A-R-Z-E-L. I have never heard of a person named that before. Ivery, I-V-E-R-Y. So that way, if you guys want to look this up, you can look it up for yourself. He's 25 years old, and he appeared before a judge in Memphis, Tennessee on Monday. Now, according to a criminal complaint, his father initially called the Memphis Police Department and said that his son, Arzel, had killed 5-year-old Zanaya Ivery and Amarah Banks, who was 4 years old. Those two little girls that y'all just saw on my screen right there. Y'all look at those beautiful little girls. And their mother, to the left-hand side, that is Amarah Banks, or Amarah Jerica Banks, who was 26 years old. According to the criminal complaint, the last time the family saw Amarah and her daughters was when they dropped her off at her apartment around 1 a.m. on February the 8th, shortly after a neighbor named, Velta Lee, damn these names, Velta Lee, who shared a wall with where Amarah lived, said loud noises woke her up. And I heard some loud thumping on my wall, and I heard a lady screaming. So I jumped up, and I hear her screaming, "No, no, help me, help me." So she did what a responsible citizen would do, and she called 911. The complaint goes on to say another witness saw Amarah run through the parking lot to another apartment without shoes on. Keep in mind, it's extremely cold outside, right? And appeared to be bleeding from the mouth. The complaint says that the witness told investigators they saw the man, Arzel Ivery, drag Amarah back to the apartment. That guy right there, who was laying on the wall in the court like he don't give a crap about nothing. Then I heard screaming some more, and the last thing she said was, "Please don't kill me." And then it just goes silent, Lee said. Now, according to the complaint, investigators went to Amarah's bedroom and found a hole in the wall that appeared consistent with a large object hitting the wall, such as her head. The complaint says investigators called Arzel at one point, who said he was in Memphis and would return on February the 21st for a police interview. In this conversation, the complaint says Arzel told police he did not know where Amarah and the daughters were. According to the complaint, he told investigators he and Amarah got into an argument because Mrs. Banks blamed the defendant for the death of her son. Put a pin in that. We're going to talk about the death of their son here right now. Actually, I guess you can take your pen out. Now, on February the 7th, the family had a funeral for Amarah and Arzel's 1-year-old son. Let me see if I can get his face. That's their son, 1-year-old Zell, Z-E-L. A Milwaukee County medical examiner reports say that the boy died naturally of what's called viral bronchitis. Viral bronchitis. The report states that the boy had asthma and he got sick with a cold. The report goes on to say his father took him to the hospital where he was found to be pulseless on arrival. MPD detectives traveled to Memphis to interview Arzel when they say that he gave information to them that led him to finding the three bodies. The mother and the two daughters were found dead in a garage on February the 16th, which was a couple days ago. Let me see. Right there. Y'all see that? I lightened the pictures just a little bit so you could see it a little bit better. Found them in that garage right there. In police interviews, Arzel said there had been tension between him and Amarah since the recent death of their son on February the 7th. He allegedly admitted to going over her house on February the 8th, meaning they did not live together, during which time the two got into an argument and Arzel eventually strangled her to death. Arzel told police he did not want the children to, quote, live in a world where they did not have their mother. So in his mind, in this fool's mind, what did he do? He went into each child's bedroom and took their life. He strangled both of his girls to death. And the reason he said he did it was because he did not want them to live in a world where they did not have their mother. That is absolutely asinine. The criminal complaint says Ivery claimed that it was his family that he brought into this world and that he could take them out if he wanted to. Now, for the black people who grew up in a black household who's heard this bullshit before, how many of you guys have heard either your mother or your father say that when you were growing up? Because I've heard it before. I love my mom and I love my daddy, but we're Southern people. We've heard it before because Southern people sometimes say crazy things, okay? But I've heard it before, so I know where that comes from. But just in this case, it sounds horrible because this fool actually did it. Now, Ivery faces life in prison for the homicides of Amarah, Zanaya, and Kamaria. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107.
A heart-wrenching scene playing out for all to see at 47th and Burleigh Sunday. As relatives of Amarah Jerica Banks got word that her body, along with those of her two daughters, 5-year-old Zanaya Ivery and 4-year-old Kamaria Banks, were found in the rear garage of this apartment building.
It raises many, many, many more questions than it does answers as to how someone could do this to a woman and her two children.
Just days after Amarah Banks, who goes by Jerica, buried her 1-year-old son Arzel Ivery Jr. Family says the boy died from respiratory issues. Banks was reported missing by family on Sunday. On Thursday, Milwaukee police issuing a public plea for help in locating Banks along with her 2 kids. Early Saturday morning, Memphis, Tennessee police contacted Milwaukee police, saying that Banks' boyfriend, 25-year-old Arzel Ivery, was arrested after he was turned in by his own father, who lives in Memphis. An Amber Alert was issued for Banks, her daughters, and Ivery Saturday afternoon.
He provided them with information on the status of Miss Banks and her 2 daughters. And that led us to the garage.
Police saying Sunday that foul play was not a part of the initial missing persons case.
The Amber Alert was as a result of this investigation is when we were able to have enough information to put an Amber Alert out there. There's criteria that goes for an Amber Alert for us to issue that.
It's unclear how or when Banks and her children were killed. But one thing is for certain.
You're gonna hurt every day.
A suspect in the deaths of a Milwaukee mother and her 2 young daughters will soon be extradited back to Milwaukee from Memphis. Those victims had been missing for at least a week before police found their bodies on Sunday in a garage near 47th and Burleigh. Stephanie Haynes now with the latest on the investigation, new at 5.
First of any hearing would be, has Tennessee picked up the right man? Have they picked up Arzel Ivery, who's wanted in Wisconsin, or have they got the wrong guy?
25-year-old Arzel Ivery appeared for the first time before a judge in Memphis. Back here in Wisconsin, Ivery faces an aggravated battery charge. According to the criminal complaint, the last time family saw Amarah Banks and her daughters Zanaya and Kamaria is when they dropped her off at her apartment on North Sherman around 1 in the morning, Saturday, February the 8th. Shortly after, neighbor Velta Lee says loud noises woke her up.
And I heard like some loud thumping on my wall, and I heard a lady screaming. So I jumped up and I hear her screaming, "No, no, help me, help me." So I dialed 911.
The complaint goes on to say another witness saw Amarah Banks run through the parking lot to another apartment without shoes on and appeared to be bleeding from the mouth. Investigators say the witness told them they then saw Ivery drag Amarah back to the apartment.
Then I heard her screaming some more. And then the last thing she said was like, "Please don't kill me." And then it just got silent.
The complaint says investigators went into Amarah's bedroom and found a hole in the wall that looked, quote, consistent with a larger object hitting the wall, such as a head. The complaint goes on to say that at some point, Ivery's father called Memphis police, saying his son told him he killed his child's mother and the 2 children. MPD detectives traveled to Memphis to interview Ivery, where they say he gave them information that led them to finding the 3 bodies.
Naisha Smith is still reeling after police found her sister, Jerica Banks, and Banks's daughters, Kamaria and Zania Ivery, dead in this garage off 47th and Burleigh Sunday. Police say Arzel Ivery gave them information leading officers to their bodies. Smith and others in Banks's family tell me Ivery had a history of violence.
It happened like every day when Jerica got off of work, every day. It's like every day, every other day, every day. He used to beat on my sister.
Did she ever report him to police?
I don't know.
What about the kids? Did he ever hit the kids?
Yes, he hit Kamara. He gave my niece a black eye.
12 News checked and did not find any domestic violence reports involving Ivery. We know he worked as a security guard. Police say after he killed Banks and the girls, he fled to his father's house in Memphis. His father turned him into police, but would not speak to news crews. Ivery was in Memphis court Monday with Milwaukee police officers present.
Can we ask you just a few questions? Do you have any comment on this case?
Sorry, I can't answer anything right now.
12 News obtained multiple police reports surrounding the case, including one from the hospital in January when Ivery's baby son, who he shared with Banks, died from breathing complications. The nurse in that report told officials Ivery did not know the child's pediatrician and may have a cognitive delay. I talked to Ivery's neighbors Monday. Did you ever notice anything strange about him, or did you ever hear any crazy fights?
I've never seen him.
You've never seen him before?
No.
And asked his family in Milwaukee about him.
I don't want to talk, man.
Can you tell me anything about him? But you do know him?
What you guys just watched is him playing dumb. He know what he did. He know that he choked them women out. And on top of that, that he has a history of beating on that woman. And it sounds like he probably had a history of beating on those little girls. Sorry, I can't deal with that. You know, I want to see this dude gone. And I know his biological father is sorely disappointed in his son, but he knows his son ain't shit. That's why when they came looking for him, he called him and was like, hey, he's over here, come pick his ass up. You did wrong and you need to stand for what you did. Straight up and down. Because either way it goes, they were going to come get him anyway. And if they found out that he was with his dad and his dad didn't turn him in, they were going to come get the dad. So the dad was just playing it smart. Because if he made contact with his dad, then you put your dad at risk. Did y'all catch that? He put his biological father at risk because if he made contact and his dad knows where he is and don't tell the police, then guess what they're going to do to the dad? They're going to arrest his ass for aiding and abetting a person that's wanted for a felony. Arzel Ivery put that woman, Amarah, and her kids, but mainly Amarah, through daily abuse. A lot of that abuse came from physical beatings. If you go back and watch the video, then you heard that even her family members admitted that this was a daily thing, that he just beat her, just beat her, just beat her, just beat her. That dude ain't shit. I can't respect him. He's not a man. He's not even a human being for what he did. He's damn sure not a father. Also, here's an indication that the family members, probably why they were out there crying the way that they are, is because those bitches know that Amarah Jerica was being abused and they did not report it. They didn't say anything because they don't want to be snitching, right? They didn't say shit. And I can't respect that. There were 0 reports of abuse, but some of them knew that this man was beating on her. Maybe she was too scared to do it, but if she told them and they didn't tell, then shame on them. The family of Milwaukee let this ride, and they also allowed this to happen as well because they heard something or they saw something and they didn't say anything. They didn't do jack shit. Those little girls didn't do anything to deserve what they got. They cannot speak for themselves, nor could they defend themselves against the tyranny of that asshole on my screen. Can't respect that. And I hope that they throw the book at his ass and he could drag this out for as long as they want to. But I know that he's going to get his just due in jail. They're going to let him have it. You already know what time it is. And on top of that, Satan has a special place for him in hell, waiting with the rest of the child molesters and child abusers. That's what it is. All right. I want to say RIP to those that were lost, to Amarah, Zanaya, and Kamaria, to the family. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. You cannot know that somebody is in danger and don't say anything because you are just as accountable for not saying shit. Because you didn't say shit, you made a conscious decision not to say anything, and it cost this woman her life. Now, I'm not throwing that all on y'all because she knew that he was abusive. She knew that he wasn't shit. And she had that man around her kids for I don't know how many years. And it cost her her life and her children's life. Okay? But to the dead, RIP, especially to Zanaya and Kamaria. Those little girls deserved a chance. Okay? Thank you guys for listening to my stream and my commentary. This is your boy DJ Just Jay. We're the AFC, where we do what? We advocate for children first. That's where my priority is. Where's yours? From my heart to your heart. Thank you guys for listening to my stream. We're out, and that's the end of the stream. Y'all have a blessed night. Love you guys. Peace.